The evening sea was calm. Soft waves moved slowly toward the shore, as if they were breathing quietly with the rhythm of the world itself. Emma walked along the narrow path that followed the coastline. The air smelled of salt and distant memories. Above her, the sky was slowly changing color. Blue became gold, gold became soft orange, and the horizon looked endless. She hadn't been here in a long time, not since the summer that had quietly changed her life. Sometimes, places remember us, even when we try to forget them. The sea always does. It keeps stories inside its waves, it keeps promises inside its silence, and it keeps moments waiting patiently until we return again. Emma stopped near the old wooden bench that still stood exactly where it always had. Nothing had changed. Not the bench, not the small lighthouse in the distance, not the sound of the waves. Only time had moved forward, and she had moved with it. Years ago, this place had meant something special. It had been the place where everything began, and the place where everything ended. Or at least, that was what she believed. That summer had been warm, quiet, full of long evenings and slow conversations that seemed to last forever. Emma had come here only for a short visit, just a few days near the sea, just a small escape from the busy city and her predictable routine. She had not expected anything to change. She had not expected to meet someone. His name was Daniel. She still remembered the first moment she saw him. He had been standing near the water, watching the horizon as if he were waiting for something that only he could see. Emma hadn't planned to speak to him. But sometimes, life moves gently in directions we never expect. He turned toward her and smiled. Not a quick smile, not a polite smile, a quiet smile. The kind of smile that feels familiar even the first time you see it. "Beautiful evening," he said. Emma nodded softly. "Yes," she answered, "it feels peaceful here." Daniel looked back toward the sea. "It always does." They began walking slowly along the shore. Not because they planned to, not because they needed to, simply because their steps moved in the same direction. Sometimes conversations begin before words are spoken. That evening, they talked about simple things: favorite places, favorite books, favorite memories. And somehow, the conversation never felt difficult, never forced, never uncertain. It felt natural, as if they had already known each other long before that evening. Over the next few days, they met again. And again, always near the sea, always near sunset, always at the same quiet hour when the sky turned soft gold and the world slowed down. They began sitting together on the old wooden bench, watching the horizon, listening to waves, sharing stories they had never told anyone before. Daniel told her that the sea helped him think clearly. Emma told him that the sea helped her feel calm. They both laughed quietly when they realized they had chosen the same place for the same reason. Sometimes connections begin in very small ways. One evening, as the sun slowly disappeared behind the distant water, Daniel became quiet. Not distant, not uncomfortable, just thoughtful. Emma noticed immediately. "What are you thinking about?" she asked softly. Daniel looked at the horizon again. "About how strange life can be," he said. "How sometimes you meet someone exactly when you weren't looking." Emma smiled gently. "Yes," she said, "life does that sometimes." That was the evening everything began to change. Not suddenly, not dramatically, just slowly, like the tide moving closer to the shore. Daniel turned toward her again. "I'm glad you came here this summer," he said quietly. Emma felt her heart move slightly inside her chest. "So am I," she answered. "But summers never last forever, and sometimes the most beautiful moments arrive quietly just before everything changes again." One morning, Emma received a message she hadn't expected, a message from the city. Her visit had to end earlier than she planned. Work was waiting. Responsibilities were waiting. Life was waiting. That evening, she walked to the shore one more time. The sky looked softer than usual. The waves sounded quieter. Even the wind felt slower. Daniel was already there, sitting on the wooden bench, as if he already knew she would come. Emma sat beside him. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Sometimes silence understands what words cannot explain. "I have to leave tomorrow," she said finally. Daniel nodded slowly. "I thought so." The sunset that evening felt different, more beautiful, more fragile, more important. Because sometimes we only understand a moment when we realize it is almost gone. That night, Emma didn't sleep for a long time. She sat near the window of the small seaside house, watching the quiet reflection of moonlight moving slowly across the water. Everything felt peaceful. And yet, her heart felt full of thoughts she didn't know how to explain. Sometimes, when something beautiful begins, we already feel afraid of losing it, even before it ends. The next morning came quietly. The sea looked calm again, almost as if nothing had changed. Emma walked slowly toward the shore one last time before leaving. Daniel was already there, standing near the water, exactly where she had first seen him, as if the story had returned to its beginning. Neither of them spoke immediately. They simply stood beside each other, listening to the soft sound of waves. "I didn't expect this summer," Emma said finally. Daniel smiled gently. "Neither did I." The wind moved softly across the water. The horizon looked endless, and for a moment, time itself seemed to slow down. "I wish you could stay longer," Daniel said quietly. Emma looked at the sea. "So do I." They walked together one last time along the shore, their steps slow, their silence calm, their hearts full of things that words could not fully say. Sometimes goodbye is not loud, sometimes goodbye is gentle. Near the old wooden bench, they stopped again. The same bench where they had watched so many sunsets together. Daniel looked at her carefully. "Will you come back someday?" he asked softly. Emma didn't answer immediately, because sometimes the heart answers before the voice does. "Yes," she said finally. "I think I will." Years passed quietly, seasons changed, cities changed. Life moved forward in ways neither of them expected. Emma returned to her routines, her work, her responsibilities, her familiar streets and familiar mornings. But sometimes, late in the evening, she still thought about the sea and about the quiet summer that had changed something inside her forever. And then one day, without planning it, without expecting it, she returned. Back to the same coastline, back to the same narrow path, back to the same wooden bench. The sea looked exactly the same. The lighthouse still stood in the distance. The wind still carried the same soft sound of waves touching the shore. Some places never forget us, even after many years. Emma walked slowly toward the bench, her heart calm, her steps quiet. The sky was turning gold again, just like before, just like that summer evening long ago. And then she saw him. Daniel was standing near the water, watching the horizon, exactly the same way he had been standing the first time she met him. For a moment, Emma didn't move. Sometimes life gives us a second beginning when we least expect it. Daniel turned, their eyes met again, and something familiar returned instantly. Not surprise, not uncertainty, just warmth. The kind of warmth that never really disappears. "You came back," he said quietly. Emma smiled. "I promised I would." They walked together again along the same quiet shore. The sunset moved slowly across the horizon. Golden light touched the water, soft waves followed their steps, and nothing felt rushed, nothing felt uncertain. Everything felt right. They sat again on the old wooden bench, watching the sun slowly disappear behind the sea. "I thought about this place many times," Daniel said softly. "So did I," Emma answered. "And somehow, I always believed we would meet here again." The sky turned deeper gold, then soft orange, then gentle evening blue. And in that quiet moment, Emma understood something important. Some connections are not lost with time. Some stories are not finished when we think they are. Some promises wait patiently until we are ready to return. Daniel looked at her again. "Are you staying this time?" he asked quietly. Emma watched the horizon for a long moment. Then she smiled softly. "Yes," she said, "I think I am." And as the last light of sunset touched the calm evening sea, two people sat quietly together, watching the horizon where their story was beginning again. Not as strangers, not as memories, but as something real, something lasting, something that had waited patiently for this very moment to return.